Okay. So in Parshas Nitzavim, so we're on page. We got the page. We're at page 1086. Okay. So Shai asked me a very important question just now, and I want to explain something. This is a very important concept. Is anybody behind the pillar over there? Can't see anybody. Aaron, while you're close the doors over there. Okay. I want to. What do you call it? I'll take it. I'll take the yeah. I told her I challenged them to a fatwa. I said, "What did you have to do that for?" I said, "Don't worry, there aren't too many Muslims watching Torah anytime. We'll be okay. They're going to come look at Torah Somayach looking for me. Come on, bring it on, boys." Okay, so very important concept, and that is there's a mistake that is commonly made by many young people, and it involves Bali Chuvas, it involves FFBs, it involves a lot of people, and it kind of something that it requires a certain maturity of thought and a little discipline to get out of. And that is like this. A lot of guys, when you're going through these changes or stages, at a certain point, you're looking for a definition of who am I really? Am I the guy who just learned Gemara really well this morning, or am I the guy who then goes to a bar at night? Who am I really? And that's a very common, people grapple with that all the time. When I first came to Ohr Somayach 150 years ago, so I was already wearing a white shirt and blue jeans. And I came here, I think I had 4 pairs of blue, I love blue jeans. And I had my blue jeans. I was wearing a white shirt. And I wore like a windbreaker for davening. I didn't wear like what you call a smart, what we call a suit jacket. You call it a smart blazer or something like that. And on Shabbos, I wore a regular hat. During the week, I was wearing like a straw black hat. And I was, going through this. I was 22 years old, going through this extremely difficult period of definition. And then one day I decided, maybe I won't wear the blue jeans. And I folded them up, put them on the shelf, and I wore regular pants. And I wanted to see. I go, will I survive it? Now, this is and then there's that definition. I learned well, but you see, you don't need a definition because nowhere does it say in any source where I have to define who I am. It doesn't say anywhere I have to define who I am. What you have to do is at each moment make the correct choice. So if in the morning you learned Gemara, and at night you then went to a bar, so then you made the wrong choice at night. You just did the wrong thing. I'm only using a bar. Am I the guy who learns in the morning and smokes weed in the afternoon? So then you made the wrong choice. It's not a question of I define myself, because some people think if I define myself this way, then it becomes permissible. No, it doesn't become permissible. You can't define if it's right, it's right, it's wrong. There is an idea of at each level a person has to go take steps at each level. But those steps have to be very carefully monitored. But it's not a question of you're not defining those steps are because we're progressing. So each person at each level, it's not a definition, who am I? It's even the yarmulkes that a person wears. If you wear one of these, so then you're a Haredi extremist. If you wear a knitted white one, then you're a Zionist. And if you wear a little leather one, then you're frum but cool, and everybody, they're trying to get a definition of who you are. You don't need that definition. What you do need to do is you simply need to make the right choice. I don't care how you define yourself. If you were learning Gemara in the morning, you went to a bar at night, so you did the wrong thing. What's the difference how you defined yourself? I once had a guy told me, this typical immature teenage, this guy was out drinking and doing this and that and the other thing. He was in a different yeshiva. And eventually he was asked by the administration of that yeshiva to take his act elsewhere. And so I was talking to him before he left. He said, that typical teenager, nobody got to know the real me. The usual teenager, nobody got to know the real me. right? Where teenagers think the real me is because once in a while they do something good and they're sensitive and they oh, that's the real. No, the real me is your actions and your behavior. What's the real you? The real you. I know the real you. The real you is constantly doing drugs, drinking, and running around in bars. That's the real you. There, I'm sure you have a sensitive part because you're a human being. You're not a turtle. So obviously, but you understand that that's a ridiculous attempt to make that. That's a typical teenage immaturity. A person in growth has to know it's not a question of who am I. It's a question of what should I be doing. There's two different. We don't need a definition over here. There's no definition. What we do need to know, and what you need to know about yourself, is you have to know what are your abilities and what are your netios. Netios means what are your interests? What are you drawn towards? That you do have to know, because that's where you're going to be successful in life. Your success in life is going to be based on knowing your talents, your abilities, your capabilities, and what you're interested in. Because most people, what you are interested in is what you're going to end up going to doing well with. And I have very few people in life, it's very difficult to force the square into the round hole. And most people in life, if they're successful in something that anyway they got a natural inclination for. You can't take somebody who's not got musical interest and try to teach them to play piano and get them to develop, which many frustrated parents do. You can't get a kid who's got no interest in sports to get interested in sports. He's not interested in it. He's certainly not going to be, the father takes his son out to play ball and the kid has got, the kid is completely uncoordinated. He's not interested in it. And the father is, and he's not. And the father's disappointed because now we're not going to have that multimillionaire who's going to take care of us when we retire because he's never going to become a professional. But the kid's not interested. What you're going to be good at, what you're going to be successful at in life is always going to be that which you are really interested in. And then you also, and generally people are interested in the things that they're good at. That's generally how it works. If you find you're good at something, you have to get interested in it. If a person's good at sports, you get interested in sports. If a person's good at chemistry, which you become a lonely person, but you'll be good at chemistry. If somebody's good at music, then you generally drift in that direction. And it's the same thing in Torah. A person who is book-oriented is going to spend a lot of time studying Torah. A person who's more people-oriented is going to do a lot of chesed. Everybody has an area of channeling. What do you call it? My wife has a relative, like a second cousin, something like that. I don't know exactly what I was never, I never made an acquisition on I didn't acquire all of my wife's property, which includes some of her relatives. So this guy was like a second cousin or something. His parents decided he's going to be a dentist. So he went to dental school. It was about 6 years, I think. 6 years of dental school. He went to the state boards. Taking his final exam now to become a dentist. He sat down at the state boards. He took one look at the paper. He said, I never wanted to do any of this. He got up and he walked out. And then he ended up playing piano in bars across the country. Right? That was... What's that? He wishes. So, I guess the piano that reminded reminded him of teeth or something. I'm not sure, whatever it was. That was never going to be, that was the black ones are where need the fillings. That was never going to be it. And he didn't do it. That's the extreme thing. You have to know what your, You have to know what your ability is, because that's where you're going to succeed in life. That's where you're going to accomplish in life. Your challenge when working on yourself, when it comes to working on our character, that's when you go against your nature. Your accomplishments go with your nature. You're working on becoming a better person means going against our nature. That means if a person by nature is selfish, he has to work on that. And if a person by nature gets angry, he has to work on that. If a person by nature is too loud, he has to quiet down, and so on and so forth. But to define who I am, that you don't have to. Yes, I go ahead.
But what if you have situations that you deal with where you do get frustrated, let's say somebody uses your shower, and everyone just decides to use your shower in that specific area.
Any similarities to real life are purely coincidental.
It's very frustrating for this person, and we know that.
So there's a rule. There's a rule in life. There's a rule in life that we have to work on ourselves. but you also have to know where your limits are working on yourself. Right? The classic example is the husband. And again, I use marriage because this is where it's going to come up more than any, because that's where your real character development comes in life. But it could be with your mother. It could be with as a guest at somebody's house. You have to know who you are. If somebody is irritating you and you're going to work on yourself and not say anything, if eventually it's going to get to the point you're just going to explode, so you're not that tzaddik yet, and you have to say, please, do you mind not...
You can say, like, get out of my shower.
I don't know if I would say it like that, and I don't know if I'd say it once he's already started taking the shower, but I would probably wait, and talk to the guy, say, by the way, I don't know if you know that the sign that says, this is my shower room, and if you dare go in there, I'm coming after you with a sawed-off shotgun. I just want you to know that means please don't use my shower room. That's a what he called. But that's not. It's like that in anything. But character development is always means going against your nature. Accomplishment means you go with your nature. That's the rule. Okay, I want to go on. I want to go into the Parsha. I just wanted you to know this thing about, because this is a mistake that many people make, that they try to define who they are. Yeah, go ahead.
So I understand not trying to define who you are, because you don't know who you're going to become in the future, but there is a level where, especially for people who are becoming religious, that you have to figure out how religious you want to become and where you
No. That's no. You don't have to figure out how observant you want to become. You have to figure out how observant I want to be right now, not how much I want to become, because you don't know what's going to become. I know what I want to take on right now, and it really requires somebody with experience, a mentor, who could tell you that at your level, you're either selling yourself short or you're taking on too much. But you don't know. You know how many times I've heard in this yeshiva, guys who've come into the yeshiva over the years and have become religious, and they've said to me, they're Shomer Shabbos, said to me, listen, I like being religious. I'm religious, but I just can't see myself wearing a black hat. My response is, I can't see you wearing a black hat either, not with an earring and a nose ring and two-toned hair. It just isn't going to look good at this point. But no one that I know who is wearing a black hat is not because 3 rabbis grabbed him in the back room, 2 held him, and 1 slammed the hat on his head and said, don't take it off. If they put on a black hat, it's because they choose willingly. And they didn't know at the stage that they came in that one day they're going to be wearing a black hat. That was something that they grew into, sometimes prematurely, by the way. I've had guys come into the yeshiva, one week he's eating pork, 2 weeks later he's growing payas. Whoa, slow down. You're just you're out of your temperature's too high. Just slow down. Nobody told you have to do that. But every step, it's not because you don't make the decision of where will I be. You make the decision right now. Then we see if things change. Okay. Now I want to go into a couple of concepts here in the Gemara, in the Chumash. Okay. Take a look at. We're on page 10a. We just started this yesterday, that they're making the covenant. And then in Pasuk Yud Daled it says like this. It's Pasuk Yud Gimel, 2, 4, 7. It's 8 lines from the top. V'lo etchem levadchem anochi koreses abrisa zoses ha'olah hazos. Not alone with you am I making this covenant. Ki es asher yeshno po imanu omed hayom lifnei Hashem Elokeinu. Those who are here today before God, ve'es asher einenu imanu hayom, and those who are not here with us today. So there are many people ask the following question: why do I have to keep a Torah that a few thousand people or a couple million people made a commitment to a couple thousand years ago? What's it got to do with me? I wasn't there. I never agreed to any of this. Why do I got to keep it? So the answer is twofold. Number one, Rashi says, other Mefarshim, those who are here today and those who are not here today. That means all of the neshamas of the Jewish people were at Har Sinai. Your neshama was there. And so your neshama accepted. Now, those who don't like it at a spiritual level, like, don't tell me, I'll deal with my neshama. Don't tell me where my neshama was. I know where my neshama was, and it wasn't anywhere near Har Sinai, right? And how do you know where my neshama was? Okay. Good. You don't like the neshama? Answer. What about the fact that countries make treaties, and then it's binding on all the people of the country, and it's binding on the next administration until they pass a law. Hold for a few minutes. Until they pass a law. That means if the United States made some treaty with France, or they made a treaty with Russia, or whoever it is, and the treaty is binding on the next president until Congress passes, or they go to, but the treaty is binding on it. Why is it binding? Your administration made the treaty, not ours. The answer is because that's the way the world works. The world accepts the fact that there are people, that there are countries, governments, and the representatives of the nation speak for the nation. Who makes the decisions for Israel? Makes the decisions for any country. The representative makes the decision. So we had representatives, a couple of thought, what's the difference if it was 10 years ago or 2,000 years ago? There were representatives who accepted a commitment. And the way the world works is that everybody's ensuing generations is then bound by that commitment. And this, by the way, includes converts. That converts are also included in the neshamas of the converts were also at, or the neshamas of the converts were also at Har Sinai. Okay, now, hold all the questions for a few minutes. I want to show you two concepts today. Take like this. Pick it up at Pasuk Yudalad now. Pasuk Tesov, sorry. Okay, we're going to read a few psukim. 5 lines from the bottom. Ki atem yadata, it'll get better, Mir Hashem. Ki atem yadatam es asher yashavnu be'eretz Mitzrayim. You know that we dwelled in Egypt. Ves asher avarnu be'kerev hagoyim asher avartem. You know that we were in Egypt, we passed through these nations. Vatiru es shikutzehem. You saw ve'es gilulehem. You saw, Rashi, how does the article translate it? Their abominations and their detestable idols. You saw all these abominable things by the nations. Eitzva, Evan, wood and stone, kesef, v'zohav, asherei bahem. Idols. Now, the plain meaning is, well, you saw that they have idols made of wood and stone, silver and gold. How does that last word, asher ibahem, which are with them? The plain meaning is, those idols that they were involved with. Okay, the idols that they were favored, the idols that they were devoted to. Rashi says, if you take a look at Rashi, he is, where is it? Where is the Rashi here? It's in the left column. The left column. Well, no, way past that. 4 lines from the bottom, left column. It'll get better, Mir Hashem. Left column, 4 lines from the bottom. Eitzva Evan. If you find it, please show the person next to you. Eitzva Evan, wood and stone. Osan shol eitzim va'avonim reisim begoloi. The idols made of wood and stone you saw out in the open. Not worried they'll get stolen. Aval shel kesef v'zahav imahem. Those are with them. Bechadre maskizam. They keep those idols of silver and gold in a hidden place. They're worried that those idols will get stolen. So the Asheri Mahem is going on the last 2 words of the pasuk that the idols of gold and silver that they're going to end up getting stolen. So it tells you something. That's quite an idol. That's quite a deity. If you got to protect the deity from getting stolen, you're worshiping the idol. Yet you're worried that you hear the irony over here. That's the first idea. There's another idea here. This is good. I can walk around with it. Oh wow, that's unbelievable. I'm coming back. The what do you call it? Now I want to show you. There's another idea here. How come the one that I need is always missing? Could you tell me why? It usually is missing. Okay. Others say like this. Why would the Jewish people have been attracted to these idols at all? What was the draw? The answer is, look, let's cause and effect. These guys are pagans. Kesef v'zav asherei mahem. And they got gold and silver. Well, where did they get their gold and silver from? From worshiping the idols. Cause and effect. I don't know how it works. I don't know why it works. But I know I want the gold and the silver. And therefore there's an attraction to it. Because you look at the data. The data says they are pagans. They worship idols. And now they're rich. Well, isn't that statistic? I mean, that's responsible data analysis, isn't it? They worship the idols and they're rich. Must be onto something. Okay. So I want to show you an incredible piece of Gemara here. There's a tractate called Avodah Zarah. Do you know that? There's a tractate of Gemara called Avodah Zarah. Very interesting tractate about idol worship and the various pagan practices, and very, very interesting. Now the Gemara says like this. The Gemara says there was a man named Zunin. Zunin, according to some, is Jewish. According to some, he's a goy. So listen to what the Gemara says. It said in Avodah Zarah, Daf Nun Hey, page 55. Amar le Zunin le Rabbi Akiva. Zunin said to Rabbi Akiva. And we find Rabbi Akiva often involved. You find that the sages of the Talmud are often involved with either non-Jewish kings, philosophers. There's a whole discussion of Alexander the Great. Remember, we spoke about Alexander the Great, who has a whole entire philosophical discussion with the sages. There are the Chachmei Debei Atuna. Chachmei Debei Atuna. What is Atuna? Where's Atuna? Athens. The wise men of Greece, who have a discussion with Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, and so you find them mixing it up. By the way, guess who always wins? The good guys always win in these philosophical discussions. So this guy, Zunin, said to Rabbi Akiva the following. Libi v'libcha yoda da'avodas kachavim lesar. My heart and your heart, we both know there's nothing to idol worship. But I sometimes see that a guy goes into the idol, he goes in unwell, he goes in sick, he goes in with fractured limbs, Uvasa kimitzamda, he comes out healed. How do you explain that? What's that? Placebo effect? The guy was, what do you call it? The guy's covered in boils and he comes out clean. How do you explain it? We see a guy goes in there and he gets cancer, comes out without cancer. How do you explain it? Now listen to this, gentlemen. So Rabbi Akiva said to him, let me give you an example. There's a guy in a city who was very reliable. And everybody in the city would entrust him with money. They would entrust the money to this guy for safekeeping without witnesses. That's how trustworthy they were. People actually give the money without witnesses. There was one man who always insisted on using witnesses. He would give this guy the money with witnesses. Everybody else was willing to entrust the money. You put your money in a bank without any receipt. And there's one guy who always insisted on getting a receipt with witnesses. One time he forgot, and he entrusted this guy with his money without witnesses. Now this is the guy who always used witnesses. So his wife said to him, hey, let's deny it. Let's deny it. Because the guy would tell the guy, where are your witnesses? I mean, you always brought witnesses. This is our chance. So the guy said to her, because this fool did something silly, we should go and lose our reliability. So we're going to get into an argument. You did, you didn't. Word's going to get out that maybe, so because one fool did something, we're going to take advantage of it, and that's going to cost us our trustworthiness. Said Rabbi Akiva. That's what Rabbi Akiva tells him as a mashal, a parable. He says that's what physical suffering, yisurim, meaning illness, physical suffering, that's what it is. They're sent to a person, and they are sworn. The illnesses, usually when it says that we swear, the illnesses have to swear. I mean, ever see an illness walking around swearing? Mostly the people who are sick, they're the ones swearing. But the illness doesn't swear. Each illness has a spiritual malach, an angel, some sort of mazel that's controlling it. So according to the commentaries, it's referring to the the spiritual beings. And they're sworn, don't leave on a certain day. You will go into this guy on a certain day. He will get sick on a certain day. That means you have a job to do. I want you to invade this human being. The illness invades the person on a certain day. They have to swear to this. And you will leave on a certain day, at a certain time, through a certain doctor, and through a certain medication. There's actually an oath that they're sworn, that they have to leave at a certain time. And when it's time for them to go, this fool happened to walk into a house of idol worship. So the Yisurim, They said, look, really, we shouldn't leave, because then everybody's going to attribute the success to the idols. But just because this fool did something foolish, we should lose our reliability. You understand what's going on, gentlemen? That means when a person gets sick, I mean, this should be very encouraging, by the way. When a person gets sick, first of all, the Gemara tells us that when a person gets sick or has some sort of illness, there is a set time and a set place and a set date and a set doctor who's going to cure this person if he's going to be cured. What sounds like the obvious question then becomes, well, if it's a set time to leave, so why do we daven to get cured? Why do we ever daven to get better? And could the davening help? Here's the problem. If they're only supposed to leave 10 years from now, so what good does it do to daven before that? What's that? You got to do your ishtadlus, but and we don't know when that date is. They didn't leave very early. They left early because they already suffered. They made up for it in the harshness of the suffering. So what's that? Oh, the answer is, according to many commentators, that refers to non-Jews. For Jews, davening always helps. You could always daven. Otherwise, why would we daven now in Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah is going to be a decree. So what are you davening for? If the decree of the person gets sick. So there's actually an opinion in the Gemara that a person is judged every day. Adam didon b'chol yom. A person is judged every day. What does that mean? What does that mean? I had a friend who was a double amputee. And that didn't change. Just say he got up every morning. What does it mean he's judged every day? So the Baal Shem Tov says that the Baal Shem Tov says a person could be in an objectively, the situation doesn't necessarily objectively change. A guy could be, he's hurting financially. There are some days that all you do is walk around all day thinking, boy, this is really rough. There are other days you're just in a great mood. Other days you're just in a great mood. Something may change your mood. That decision of how the objective suffering or the objective challenge will affect the person, that's decided every day. It means a person could have a serious financial challenge. Or a person could have a serious, let's say a person has a kid who's giving him a hard time. And there are certain days as a parent when your kid's giving you a hard time as a parent, and all kids give you a hard time because it's relative to the parent. So I knew a kid whose parents were broken. I had this kid here. So his parents could not come. It was a family crisis. I was involved. His sisters, the parents, they were going back and forth because he was in university, and in one of his courses he got a B. I mean, if I would have gotten a B, we would have gone out to a restaurant that night. You know, this guy, he got a B. There were correspondences at the time, it was faxes back and forth between the parents. I remember reading, one of the sisters read to the parents, we know what you're going through. The parents had certain standards, obviously. Parents had certain standards. I mean, the guy was very interesting. So this is a guy who sent away, he got tickets to the Olympics. We're going back into the 90s. He had tickets to the Olympics. And he had to get a paper done, and his father said to him, you have to have that paper done by 8 o'clock. If you don't have it done by 8 o'clock, I'm ripping up those tickets. And he came down at 5 after 8 with the paper, and his father ripped up the tickets. Yeah. Well, the kid, he knew he was, obviously, if he could have got done by 5 after 8, he could have done it by 8 o'clock too. So I think he was more checking to see, let's see, Dad. Well, Dad ripped up the tickets. So it was a very interesting thing. But to them, it was a tremendous suffering. Some people suffer because their kid is my older brother, I remember getting in trouble because he came home, and the only time he got in trouble, because I think he got a 91 on a test. And my parents were like, what happened? Then, this is my warmest childhood memory. Then I think he came back with a 90. That was like a closed door meeting. I got a 77. We celebrated. That was, and that was 77 out of 200. That was a family celebration. So you see, everybody, it's all relative, but everybody suffers. How much are you going to suffer on any given day? So for example, today I got stuck in traffic. Now, under certain circumstances, it would bother, it was no reason for it. But knowing that the White Sox just lost their 120th game in tying the all-time record for the worst record in baseball history, that was a great mood. It didn't affect me. That was a message from heaven. That was just so I wouldn't, and tomorrow when they lose and set the record, we may have a kiddush. right? Can you imagine? This is like a dream. This is better than the Cubs winning the World Series. That the White Sox are the worst team in history, right? So why would that happen? It could be, I'm struggling financially, or some Mavs having trouble paying a little bit, that. But the White Sox are losing. That means a person is judged every day. A person is judged every day. So when we take a look at the idol worshipers, what's going on over there? Look at that. They got gold and silver. Why is that happening? Probably would have had gold and silver anyway. They would have had it if they prospered, they would have prospered anyway. You're making a judgment. What happens? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. I'm not going to change the reality of the world because some fool bowed down to an idol. He's rich, he's going to have the money. Now we take a look at it. We say, hey, look at that. The Gemara is telling you that when a person is going through illness or any suffering, there's a limit on it. There's a statute of limitations. On the other hand, we have to daven. Because davening always helps. That we always have to. We always have to daven. Okay, number one. Number two, somebody had a question. Somebody had a question. Yeah, go ahead. Worked again. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I thought it worked again. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, fine. I lost it.
Okay, it did work. There we go. Okay. Take two lines from the bottom. 2 lines from the bottom. So Hashem says, okay, you're going to see these idols. Now pay attention. You got to see the inside now. Pen yesh b'chem isha, lest there is among you a man or a woman, o mishpacha o shevet, asher levovo pone hayom me'im Hashem Elokeinu leleches lavodas lokei hagoyim. Maybe you have somebody who's straying away from God to follow those idols. Pen yesh b'chem shoresh pore rosh vilana. Pay attention carefully now. Look at these words carefully. Lest there is among you how does he translate? I love the ArtScrolls translation here. A root flourishing with gall and wormwood. That means a rotten egg, what we call a rotten egg. There's a poisonous, toxic person around here. There's somebody toxic. I love that word. And he's toxic. He's toxic. Right? It's not my comfort zone. It's toxic. And he what do you call the Torah says there's somebody who is straying after the idols, and he's a poisonous root, which often means that he's somebody who's going to look to influence other people negatively. Take a look at the first letters on Shoresh, Pore, Rosh, Vilana. Look at the first letter, Shin, and Shoresh. Pore is a pei, Rosh is a resh, vav is a lana. So you have a shin, a pei, a resh, and a vav. If you rearrange those letters, what do you get? Shofar. You get a shofar. That means that a person who, you could be the root of the worst, with the worst nature and the worst tendencies, yet the shofar carries within it the ability to have a person change. The sound of the shofar. That's what we're supposed to do. You hear the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, that shofar has the potential. Why? Not because of the sound, because the Torah said it. The Torah says if you listen to the shofar, it's a mitzvah. First of all, by the way, on Rosh Hashanah, when you hear the shofar, what should you be thinking when you hear the first thought when you hear the shofar is what?
Doing a mitzvah.
Yes. The first thought when I hear the shofar, before you get to anything spiritual, like, oh, wow, I got tshuva, I'm going to, bum, bang, bang. The first thing is, and by the way, there's no bang, banging on Rosh Hashanah. The first thing when we hear the shofar is, I am fulfilling a Torah command of hearing the shofar. Why? Because the Torah said, listen to the shofar. For the same reason, you never say to him, why am I shaking a lulav? You do a lulav because the Torah says do a lulav. All right, it symbolizes poking the satan in the eye. You know that? The lulav. So just make sure you don't get poked in the eye when there's a little kid behind you. Yeah, we're poking the satan in the eye. It symbolizes the number one, victory. After we come out of Yom Kippur, victory with the lulav. A lot of symbolism. That's beautiful. First thought is, I'm fulfilling a mitzvah. And like any mitzvah, it has effect on our neshama. You listen to the shofar could have an effect on the neshama. Why? Because Hashem said so. But the shofar symbolizes also, the sound. There are 3 sounds, right? A tkiyah. Those are the 3 basic sounds of the shofar. And with any imagination at all, those sounds are similar. Imagine somebody who drops a bowling ball on his foot. Imagine a person drops a bowling ball on his foot. what's the sound, the first sound you hear? Tekiah, like, ah! Right, that is, oh, like that. That's basically what happens when you drop a ball. It shouldn't happen to anybody but our enemies. But imagine it happens and somebody drops a ball. Those are basically the sounds you're gonna hear. Or when your kicker misses a 32-yard field goal in the last second of a close football game, and you're down by 1, and he misses the winning field goal from 32 yards. So then, what's your reaction? Like, oh, right? And then you realize you've been a Bear fan, right? That's you what do you call it? What? Oh, the double dink, the double. Okay, glad you enjoyed it, Sam. Oh, what about the fog bowl? Yeah, the fog bowl. I remember people crying about the fog bowl. Hey, they both had the same disadvantage. And the Philadelphia guys are all whining away over there. Yeah, real classy guys over here. Got real classy guys over here. The bottom line is that the shofar obviously represents some sort of, we're contrite and we're crying. But you have to realize it's the mitzvah. And that shofar, hearing the shofar has the ability, a person who's a shoresh porah rosh v'lana, a person who's at the lowest level. And I just saw yesterday in the Navi Yeshaya says, there are people who genuinely think that they really can't do tshuva, that their tshuva isn't accepted. Well, listen, guys, it says it is. Tshuva was created before the world was created. Hashem says, I do accept tshuva, and I want you to do tshuva. I want you. So people say, Hashem doesn't really accept me. Yeah, yes, he does. Yes, he does. And it's a fact. And if you don't believe that fact, then it's no different than not believing that Moshe received the Torah from Sinai. And the tshuva, if you do tshuva, it's accepted. If you do tshuva, it's accepted. Bottom line, it's finished. And the story. That's what the Torah is saying. Okay, we'll have to continue tomorrow. There's another idea I want to go into. We'll have to continue with it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.